they can attempt to say that it was started by gamers, but it was started by one of their own employees. And a lot of these game websites seem to omit that information. The game journalists that you have aren't willing to do their jobs because they're not willing to actually say the truth anymore. You're not allowed to have opinions that are even remotely different, because if you do, you get excommunicated. They have these really cool characters that the games are named after, right? In Spider-Man's case, Spider-Man, Alan Wake. Both of these characters had unique abilities within their games, yet they force you to play as other characters that are just not as interesting to play as. Like, I don't want to play as some deaf girl. I don't want to play as a deaf guy either. I don't want to play as Mary Jane. The game's not called Mary Jane. It's called Spider-Man. Let me play Spider-Man. And that's kind of what Disney and all these places are doing in video games too, is that they're kind of saying how, like, oh, we don't want you because you're these bigoted, racist gamers. We're going to go for the modern audience. And it's like, the modern audience doesn't exist. They refuse to give you what you want because they think they know what you need.
Hello and welcome to CultureScape, the show that delves into the heart of nerd culture by interviewing the creative minds and influential figures who have shaped it. That's a bit of a mouthful, and I'm your host, Pete Pischke. Today, we're diving into a topic that's been buzzing in everyone's conversations: Sweet Baby Inc. and the resurgence of GamerGate. Joining me today to shed light on the current state of the gaming industry is a personal favorite YouTuber of mine, Endymion from EndymionTV, the YouTube channel. Endymion brings us daily gaming news and stories, dissecting topics with insightful wisdom, sharp wit, and a dynamic, suave, masculine energy. I don't know how else to put that. As a regular viewer of his content, I'm thrilled to have him on our program today. So, Endymion, how's everything going? I am definitely going to re-record that later.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. Everything's going good. I'm just, currently editing like crazy. My newest video right now has an audio file of like 25 minutes. I'm trying to bring that down because I think that's too long. Just putting too much work on my plate. And I really want to play Final Fantasy, but I have to work, so I have to get it done.
Problem. Yeah, I just keep wanting to go back to that, but then I have like normal people stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm like right near the end of 7 Rebirth. I'm on chapter 13. So I was like asking online because one of the trophies is you have to beat Sephiroth in that 3D brawler game at the Golden Saucer. And I got pretty close, but I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the patience at the time. So I went on Twitter and I asked, like, does all the mini game like progress like carry over to New Game Plus? And apparently it does. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll do it later. It's fine. I just need to beat the game. I need to know what they changed, what happens at the end, because I don't know yet, obviously. So
good. Yeah, no, and it's been so hard to keep hidden from all the spoilers.
Yeah,
they've been everywhere. It's like a minefield.
Yeah, I don't know how I managed to like avoid it, but I did somehow. And I'm like almost 92 hours into it. I think level 49. I think something like that.
Yeah,
I've 100%ed the whole world, all the intel, everything. I just got to beat the story now. I just beat the Gilgamesh like side quest stuff. So yeah, just the main story, and then I can New Game Plus it, do it all again, did all the Chocobo races. I can keep talking about Final Fantasy. I've done so much in it. So much stuff.
I agree. It's my favorite. It's probably my favorite game that I've played in a long time. It's wonderful.
I agree. That's great.
Okay, so let's jump into the topic on everyone's lips, which is the return of GamerGate 2.0, and Sweet Baby Inc. Sometimes I just talking to people who aren't on Twitter all day and don't pay attention to this stuff, trying to explain some of these like online things. We're like, oh, well, there's this game company and they hire these smaller game companies to fix their script. And then this one guy said this one thing, and
yeah.
So, okay, here, break it into us. Like, so how did we get here? What's going on with GamerGate?
Basically, there was a user called Cabrutus. I think that's how you say his name. He made a Steam curator tool that just compiles all the games that Sweet Baby worked on. And then Chris Kindred, who works at Sweet Baby, decided to try to use their influence to, I guess you could say, strong arm cancel them, get their whole account canceled and everything. And it created the Streisand effect. And now everyone knows who Sweet Baby is. And a lot of people have kind of, ran to the side of the guy who made it and protected him, myself included. I've talked to him in DMs. Seems like a cool guy. Yeah. And that's basically it. And now it's just this massive damage control campaign. And now there's all these sorts of like consulting companies getting like revealed. Like there's a new one I just found out recently. It's in my video I'm editing right now called Bare Knuckle. There's a lot of them. Weird Ghost, Baby Ghost, Bare Knuckle, Sweet Baby, Cozy Comet Games. I'm probably missing a few. There's a lot, man. And it's all funded by this company called Weird Ghost, which was founded by Eileen Holoka. And I can't remember the second person's name, but their last name's Faber, something Faber, Jenny Faber, maybe her name is. I don't remember. And they're the reason why it's all happening. They're the ones that kind of like spearheaded it. And if you look up their accounts on weirdghost.com, they refer to themselves as white settlers living on indigenous land, which is just like this really weird, like woke way that people talk about stuff, which is really creepy. And now it's sort of exploded. You have like Elon Musk talking about it. You have YouTubers that normally don't talk about this kind of stuff talking about it too. Like I'm noticing that some ordinary gamers talked about it too, which I thought was interesting because like he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would get involved with that either.
Usually from politics. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are kind of just all giving their opinion on it across the board. And then you have, the Act Man that tried to get in, and then that was the whole thing. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. And you have like, all the usual people that I know that are talking about it, Yellow Flash, Heels versus Babyface. Even people I don't know, like It's a Gundam, are talking about it too, but he's doing great work as well. So there's a lot of people just across the board. It just seems to be like, so far, in my opinion, it's probably the biggest story in gaming this year.
It is pretty big. And you bring up the Eileen Holoka, which is of course connected to the poor developer that
yeah. I can explain that too if you want.
Yeah, no, I think that there's so many rabbit holes. That's what's crazy. It's like there's so many just little rabbit holes everywhere. Like you're in a prairie dog field. You can just fall in,
and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and more messed up. Now, like Homeland Security is involved. They're saying that people that are talking about it are harassment campaigns, but it's not. It's just, I remember when the whole Kotaku article happened, and that one lady, Alyssa Mercanti, how do you see her name?
Mercanti, something.
And she was, she had the whole thing where she went into the Discord server. It was like, I infiltrated it. It's like, it's a public Discord server. You didn't infiltrate anything. You're acting like you're Solid Snake. You didn't do anything. And then she's asking things like, is there any reason why you guys don't have your names and photos of what you look like as your profile pictures? And it's like, what are you going to do even if they did? You're going to call their employer and be like, hey, your employee doesn't like video games having bad writing. What do you think about that? You should fire them. Like, what are you going to do? Nothing. It's just stupid. Like, it's not a harassment campaign as much as they try to paint it that way. And they can attempt to say that it was started by gamers, but it was started by one of their own employees. And a lot of these game websites seem to omit that information, which I've been noticing a lot. Yep. And that's been really unfortunate.
In fact, I can't think of one that did include that detail. Not Polygon, not IGN, none of them.
No, Polygon, all. They all try to say, like, oh, it was this nefarious Steam user. It says, no, it was Chris Kindred, who works for Sweet Baby. That's who started it. If that person didn't say anything, I don't think any of this would have happened. It would have just been like there's a Sweet Baby curator tool on Steam. That's kind of interesting, I guess. And then that kind of would have been it. I mean, there's curator tools for everything, though. Like one of my previous video, I talked about how there's curator tools to find out which games have DRM. And you don't see the people that are developing that going and attacking the person that made that. They're just like, yeah, we made DRM. So what? Like, who cares? There's curator tools to find out what games Square Enix worked on, or RPGs or shooters or whatever. It's all kinds of stuff. And the only reason why you wouldn't want to have a light shown on it is because you don't want people to know what you're doing. And that's the only reason why. It's disingenuous. That's why we are where we are.
Yeah, and the two things, one that makes me feel more positive, and then the other thing that just drives me nuts to no end, and this is something you've talked a lot about in your videos, and with my own personal experience, every now and then, putting my toes in the water in the world of game journalism, and while I love doing it, it's like so many of the people in it are just horrible human beings. They really are. I mean, there's lots of bad journalists, but like, it's for whatever reason, games journalism seem to attract more of them. And so that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like if they it would have been so easy saying, oh, this one person did this one thing, I disagree with it, but it happened. Here are the concerns gamers have. Here are the concerns we have. And then, just leave it at the date. It's just like, at least try to be fair.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
take the air out of it. It would have been like, it just went.
What I noticed is that whenever Wayne gaming websites actually side with the players, they get a lot of heat from other websites. A really good example of this would be when the whole Baldur's Gate 3 thing happened. And there was this one guy who works at IGN who I actually think still does good work there. Most of them I would argue don't. But one guy who's part of the old guard there, his name is Destin Laguerre. He was there during the days of Colin Moriarty, Greg Miller, Tim Geddes, all those people. Colin Moriarty is a big reason why I even do what I do. That's like one of my biggest inspirations for video games in general.
Colin. Yeah, Colin.
Yeah. So Destin made a video about Baldur's Gate and he referenced me, Young Yeah, and I think it was Legacy Killer HD. And then when that video came out, they kind of credited all of us. And then I was the only one that got discredited. And then after they made that video being like, well, yeah, players should be wanting more from their games, the whole games industry just descended upon IGN and that one video like vultures and attacked them. And ever since then, they haven't really been making any videos that have been like that and it's funny because that one video they made about Baldur's Gate 3, that was probably one of their most well-received videos in a long time by the actual like viewer base. Because for once they were actually talking about what people actually thought. And a lot of these websites don't do that anymore. And it's at the point where it kind of falls to people like myself and others to kind of be the game journalists now, because the game journalists that you have aren't willing to do their jobs because they're not willing to actually say the truth anymore. Because if they do, then what'll happen to them will be like what happened to IGN. They'll get attacked. So it's up to us. We have to basically keep them accountable and actually talk about it, because if we don't, no one else really will.
My experience working in news media is most of them are pretty much cowards. Which is, I mean, to be fair, it's like that's your livelihood. You know, if you're worried about how you're going to get your next meal or you have a family, and there are reasons why it is that way. Not that it justifies it, but I mean, I agree with you. One of the craziest things this is just like a year or two ago. Gene Park, who he is the Washington Post. He's the only one of the
only real game journalists left is Gene Park.
Yeah,
he's one of the only ones. I would agree.
And he talked to Call and he talked to Eric because he was just reaching out to talk to other people. And he had all of them descend, all of them, like harpies, everyone, the ones at Kotaku, the ones at Polygon, destruct all of them. They just came down and they tried to get him canceled. And I was like, this man is dying of brain cancer. Is this appropriate?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I have such like respect for him, Gene, in general, because like the dude is actually willing to just talk to people of opposing sides, right? Because like, I know, like, again, one of the big reasons for my YouTube channel, big inspirations, is Colin Moriarty and how he got, I guess, kicked out, whatever, from Kind of Funny and all that. And I was just like, when that happened, I was like, the games industry is changing. Like, clearly, like, you're not allowed to have opinions that are even remotely different, because if you do, you get excommunicated. So when I saw Gene reach out to him, and then now I think Gene's now on the Nintendo podcast they have now.
Nintendo podcast they have.
And I'm like, that's all you need. That's all you need to bring people together. Just have people of opposing sides and show that they can still be friends and talk to one another. Like, I have friends that we don't agree on everything. It's fine. Like it's okay. You don't have to agree on everything. There's people that do YouTube, that I do YouTube, and we don't agree on everything either. And it's fine. It doesn't mean we have to beat each other's necks, but these people, it's like, you're either like us 100% or you gotta go, essentially. Yep. And I think that's not only boring, but it's horrible. And that's why I think Gene Park's one of the only real journalists left. I would even say, even though he is pretty like liberal based, but like Jason Schreier at the very least actually reports on news and gets scoops. Whereas like most of these, game journalists just kind of regurgitate like, here's a new game coming out. Here's a trailer, whatever. It's like, okay, it's not really journalism. You're not like, breaking any stories or anything or giving your opinion on anything. Or you get articles like the recent one at IGN where they talked about how Resident Evil 5 is racist, which is in my new video that I'm making right now. It's so stupid. I mean, I made a video about that 2 years ago, about how dumb that is.
15-year-old talking point.
I know, it's so dumb. They're like, oh, it's racist because it's like you're shooting black people. It's like, it's in Africa. Why weren't you mad when Resident Evil 4 you're shooting Spanish people? No one seemed to care. No one cares that you're shooting like white people in Resident Evil 3 or 2 or oh, you're shooting Chinese people in Resident Evil 6 because there's a part in China. Like, who cares? They're zombies. Does it really matter? And they're like, oh, well, it's racist. And then they say in their article, it'd be better if you had a black protagonist. I'm like, did you play the game? Sheva's there. And they don't need to change Chris Redfield from that because the whole point of the story is him trying to save Jill. And what's also funny is that IGN gave the game a 9 out of 10 back in the day. Of course, times have changed, but still, And they're like, no, it has to be remade now. Now, it can't be in Africa anymore. It's like, well, they just don't play it. And in my opinion, if Resident Evil 5 gets announced as a remake and they're like, oh, now it's in America or something, or they completely change it, no, I'm not going to play it. I'll be like, that's not Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 is in Africa, Chris Redfield and Sheva, and they fight Wesker and whatever. The only thing they need to change about Resident Evil 5, dial back the BS like action stuff that happens later on in the game. When you're like, I'm talking about where the game starts to slowly like evolve until like what Resident Evil 6 ends up becoming, where it's just way too action heavy. There's like orbital strikes coming from space and you're like bombing zombies and stuff. And you're just kind of like, this is a little too much, but like, just like up the horror, keep it scary and creepy all the way through, more exploration, more of that Resident Evil 4 puzzle elements to it. But if you just say it's racist because you're shooting black people that are zombies, it's like, that's just stupid. And it shows that they're biased. And this is kind of just across for all games journalism, because if that game's bad, but you're totally fine with every single other Resident Evil, it just shows that you're biased. And we all know that if they had a Resident Evil game where you played a black special ops dude and all the zombies were white, they'd all be praising it. And it just shows their bias. And it's tiring,
It is tiring. I 100% agree. It's a continuing frustration of mine. I actually think, like you said, Jason Schreier, when you read real games journalism, it's elevating. It makes you appreciate the art form and the industry.
Yeah, you learn something from it. And that's what we don't have anymore. Now it's just, you're a bigot if you don't think this way. Where it's like, well, Gene Park will actually, like, that article where he spoke to the guys that were doing the remake for Final Fantasy Rebirth. And I'm like, that's game journalism. He interviewed them. He wrote down what they said. Some people misinterpreted, saying that they have the next 7 part as like a PS5 exclusive, which is what they didn't say. And there's a whole thing about that, but it's fine. And that's one of the only real journalists that we have left that actually talks about video games. Doesn't attempt to just go out of his way to be like, you're all bigots because you think differently, and it's stupid.
No, I agree. The flip side of that is I am really happy to watch. And this wasn't really true of GG the first time around in my memory, but that people have rejected the politics. Tucker Carlson, most especially, tried to jump in all this. Of course, Tucker Carlson hates anything geek-related whatsoever. Many people in conservative media, unfortunately, do. Having worked some in conservative media, I can tell you that is the default for a great many people. And to see people, when he wanted to get in on the grifts, just see everyone just like push it away. People say the
same thing happened with Matt Walsh too, right? I saw that too. People got mad at him too. I think
that's good though, because I think people are like, no, we don't need to get political. We need to focus on the games. And I was like, okay, all right. I think this could.
Yeah, I feel like they said that if you read online, whenever you read any summary of Gamergate 1, which is 2014, 2015, they'll always say oh, it kind of fell apart because there was no leadership or whatever. And nowadays, I feel like I wouldn't say there's a leader of Gamergate 2 or something, but there's a lot more definitive, I guess you could say, figures that are pushing things forward. And not just me, there's a lot of us. But I feel like this time it feels much different. And I think in today's culture, especially because we have Twitter or X or whatever, that's very free speech oriented, we're actually able to actually say what's happening. And it feels good that we actually are able to say what we think. And I know they might think that comes from a place of hate, but it really doesn't. It's not that people are just, I'm sure there are people out there that are just we don't want black people in video games or whatever it is. But in general, what it is that people just don't want to be talked down to, and they don't want politics from the real world to be infecting their games. And I know some people will say, well, politics are all over, whatever, but it's an example I have in my new video, but the way I explain it is that you could have concepts like religion in your games, as long as the thing that is like religious in your game isn't like a real world organization. So like, let's say the example that I use in my newest video is that like in Final Fantasy X, they have a religion in that game. That's a big part of it. But the religion's not straight up called Christianity, or like Mormonism or whatever. It's like an amalgamation of a bunch of different religious themes. So they're able to talk about religion, but they're not beating you over the head with like, one real world example saying like Christianity is bad or this one's bad or whatever, they're still able to talk about it. And I feel like that's kind of more what people would rather have than straight up being like, when you play like a Spider-Man 2 and they just have pride flags everywhere and they have missions where you're playing a deaf girl. And even in that regard, people would get mad about that and say, oh, what are you racist against like playing as, young black girls who are deaf? It's like, no, I'm annoyed because the game's called Spider-Man 2 and you're making me play as some random person who's not called Spider-Man. Like, I don't want to play as some deaf girl. I don't want to play as a deaf guy either. I don't want to play as Mary Jane. The game's not called Mary Jane. It's called Spider-Man. Let me play Spider-Man. That's all I want to do. I just want to swing around and stuff, Mm-hmm. And it's the same problem with Alan Wake 2. It's exactly the same thing with what's wrong with Spider-Man is that they have these really cool characters that the games are named after, right? In Spider-Man's case, Spider-Man, Alan Wake. Both of these characters had unique abilities within their games, yet they force you to play as other characters that are just not as interesting to play as, right? Like in Alan Wake 2, you have Saga Anderson. Her unique gameplay mechanic is that she can go into her brain and put notes on a wall. And you play her more than Alan Wake. And Alan can like use light to change the environment and he can write new scenes and change how things work. But you play as Saga more anyway. It's like, that's not who I want to play as. Not because she's a woman, because she's just not as interesting to play as Alan from a gameplay perspective. And with the Spider-Man, it's the same way. I don't want to play as Mary Jane. I don't want to play Discount Tomb Raider. I want to play Spider-Man. And a lot of these game developers are like, no, you're forced to play as this because we have to. We have to have a playable female character. Like we already saw in the leaks for the Insomniac Wolverine game that Jean Grey is probably going to be playable. And the only reason why she's playable is because, we need a female character to be playable, obviously. And mark my words, I'll say it right now. They're going to introduce X-23 probably in the first Wolverine game, and she's going to overshadow Wolverine in the sequel. And eventually, by the second or third game, Wolverine won't even be the main character anymore. And they'll do the exact same thing they did with Spider-Man.
I've had my day.
It's going to be exactly like Spider-Man. They literally have a line in Spider-Man 2 where he's like, why would this city ever need to be when they have you to like Miles Morales or whatever? And I could rant for a long time. Let's just put it this way. This kind of shit is so dumb, especially in Insomniac's case, because they're like, we want to make Miles Morales the main character. Why? He has no connection to the villains in Spider-Man 3 that you've set up. You have Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus, and you're making Miles Morales the main character. Doesn't make any sense. It's just I could keep going, but we keep moving on. But just, yeah, it's a lot of stupid stuff.
It's frustrating, man. It's this, like I kind of mentioned, like, all this would be neutered if the game stores would just acknowledge that the other side has some points that are correct. Like if they said, actually, no, you're not crazy that you noticed that. In Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker's now all like weepy and whiny, and I can't pay my bills. And then they do it all the time. Shaking people in the neck. It's crazy. And then you go to the game journalist and be like, well, what do you think of this? And then they say, it's not happening. You should like it anyways, but it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. And they try to gaslight everybody. And I think that's one of the worst things about the whole thing is they try to say like they know what we're saying is true, but because it doesn't meet with their, ideology, they'll just act stupid and be like, no, that's not happening. It's like, it is. You can see it with your eyes. Every single game pretty much across the board, if there's a male hero or something, they will always try to like sidestep him to put in some sort of like female character instead. They did it in The Last of Us as well, which was one of the biggest games that probably did it. Everyone, even to this day, hates the fact that Joel died. I guess spoilers if you care, but whatever. It was so like to this day that I can't believe they did that. And at this point, if they do make a Last of Us Part 3, I hope nobody in Part 2 is playable. I'm not even saying Abby. I don't want anyone. I don't want to play as any of them. I don't give a shit about Ellie. I don't give a shit about Abby, Lev, nobody. Just move on. I don't care anymore. I don't care.
Oh, so let me ask you this. What is your, because you do pay attention. I like this about your videos. You talk about what gamers are talking about, but you do put an effort to talk about what's happening on the game developer side. So what is your, I'll put you my theory, you can give me yours. What's your theory for why this is happening? I'm just thinking about mostly comics, but kind of seeing it elsewhere. It seems to be like these companies invite these people in who, we can hire them for cheaper, and they have certain politics, and a reward for paying them cheaper will let them gatekeep and use their politics. And then it just becomes this thing where eventually it hits critical mass. And because their ideas, because like, look, making an idea as good as Spider-Man is hard. Okay?
Yeah,
it's really hard. And it's better if you just take the Spider-Man game and you just you make your game, and you just kind of push Spidey off the pedestal, put your game there, and you're good to go. That's kind of my theory, because that's what happened in comics. It was like, well, I could write a book about Wolverine, but, I don't really want to. But the book's called Wolverine. Right, it's right there in the title. Well,
I think the reason why is because you're seeing across the board what's happening is it's that line from Lord of the Rings where it's like evil can make, it can only corrupt, something along those lines. But essentially, they're clearly not like, even like, here's the thing, even when they have access to all of these IPs that we love, they're still not able to write stories that seem to resonate anyway. And that's when they have the crutch of like, decades old IP, whether it's Spider-Man or whatever else. They're not capable of creating their own stories that are unique with their own characters. And it's much easier to just take an established IP that already has a built-in fan base, whether it's really anything under the, like, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. You take that because people already know what it is. And then you go, oh, well, people are going to watch this or they're going to play this anyway because they know who these characters are. But because we're not talented enough, we're just going to take these things that you already know, and then we're going to basically morph them to fit our ideology and our viewpoints. And then if you don't like it, we're going to call you racist bigots, basically, and then that's it. And usually some of these things are too big to fail. Like Spider-Man 2, yeah, it's Spider-Man. It's going to sell no matter what the quality of the game is because it's Spider-Man. It's the same thing with like a Star Wars game, Even like Star Wars Battlefront. Like the first one wasn't very good, but it still sold like 11 million copies in like 3 months or something. Because it's Star Wars, right? And then in Star Wars 2, which actually had a campaign, what did they do? They made you play some female, Imperial Trooper Commander lady. I forgot her name. I think that game was awful.
Either.
I remember her name. And she ends up becoming like the main character, and then she's helping Princess Leia, and it just is so bad. And they just keep doing it, and then they just keep ruining games with these very obvious pandering. And you're noticing a lot of the time too, a lot of games have very clearly gone through kind of pushing the male side of the audience out of the way. And this is a big thing that's been failing Disney a lot. Is I didn't realize this till I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Chris Gore actually from Film Threat, and he said something along the lines of they took a male IP franchise and they tried to contort it to be a female franchise instead. But then he says something along the lines of like, you can't really blame Disney because Disney kind of made their name in female franchises, which is, Disney princesses, all those movies and everything. And that's kind of what they knew. And then they were given this property that was very male dominated, which was Marvel and Star Wars. And they kind of went like, well, the only thing we really know how to do is how to cater to like young girls and stuff. Because we do all the Disney movies and stuff, Pixar. So we're kind of going to take that and funnel that through our Disney vision. And that's how you end up with this like MCU that's now more female than male. And now the men don't want to watch because it's not really what they're into, but the women also don't kind of want to watch it because they don't really care as much because it's not particularly a female brand, no more so than a male brand. And one example I always use is sort of like what a lot of these companies are doing. It would be akin to like a makeup company like Sephora, just telling all of their female customers, like, yeah, you can't shop here anymore. Like, we're not making makeup for you anymore. We're just going to make makeup for like straight men. And it's like, okay, like you're allowed to do that, right? Like it's your, whatever you want to do, but you're probably not going to make a lot of money. And you're probably going to go under and have a lot of layoffs. If you do that, you can though. Right. And that's kind of what Disney and all these places are doing in video games too, is that they're kind of saying how like, oh, we don't want you because you're these bigoted racist gamers. We're going to go for the modern audience. And it's like the modern audience doesn't exist. They don't. You know, the only audience that's ever existed, Roddick has said this, I'll keep saying it too, is like, all that exists is the audience that's always been here. The you, the me, the people watching, whatever. We're the people that are always going to be here. So they imagine like, oh, if we make a Suicide Squad game that panders to, you know, woke blue-haired feminists, that they're all that there's enough of them out there to support this game. And it's like, no, there isn't. The game's already 40% off. You know what I mean? There's not even 1,000 people playing it on Steam. And it's like they're pandering to these people that don't exist. And if these people do exist, a lot of them don't have any money anyway. Most of them are communists. That's how they all believe anyway. So they all believe like everything should be free anyway. So they're not going to support you anyway because that's just how they are. So you're making a game for these people that are going to buy it anyway. And then the people that aren't going to buy it don't want to buy it because you're telling them that it's not for them. So there's just a lot of money and like waste and potential being lost. And there's so many franchises that are getting ruined because of this. Like, I love the Rocksteady Batman games. It hurts me knowing that Suicide Squad is what ended up happening, you know? But then in reality, when I think about it now, people are like, well, if Rocksteady lives long enough to make another Batman game, what are they going to do? And I think the logical answer to that is they're going to double down because that's what they always do. And probably what they're going to do is they'll make another Arkham game, but they'll make Batwoman the main character because Batwoman in the comics is a lesbian, you know, Kate Kane. And she'll become the main character because, one, she's a woman, she's like Batman, and she's a lesbian. It's like the perfect thing for new age Rocksteady to do. And then no one's going to want to buy it because they're going to look at that and go, oh, it's just Suicide Squad 2.0. And then Rocksteady's going to go, oh, well, everyone's racist. Nobody wants this. And it's like, yeah, because you're making a game that nobody wants. We don't want these characters anymore, you know? And it's across the board. There's just so many things. And yeah, it's just very, very tiring to see.
And the big mistake, and I don't know if it is a mistake, I cannot tell, but the big mistake, then games journalism, games media people say, well, that this is proof that the gamers are racist. This is proof the gamers are sexist because they complain that, you know, we messed with their games, that proves they're bad. But, you know, we started this talking about FF7 Rebirth, which is glorious, truly glorious. Barrett in that game, I mean, I always liked Barrett, even though he was kind of a bit of a Mr. T impersonator in the original game. I love him in this. Like, I really connect with him as a character on a very deep, fundamental level.
The only part of Rebirth that made me tear up a little bit was the scene between him and Dine. I don't know if you got to that point yet.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So, like, that anyone who's played the original game, they know the story of Dine, Marlene, and Barrett. And that scene for me is like, that's the only part of the game so far where I watched that now and I'm like, damn, this actually like got to me emotionally. You know?
And he's a black character. That's my experience of just being around gamers most of my life. They really don't, some of them are like more political, but they really don't generally think that way. They're just thinking of, they want a good game. If the character is black or even if it's blue hair, whatever, as long as it's a good game, they will tolerate it. But if you're going to treat their properties like this and then pretend it's not happening and then complain when they notice, that's going to obviously make people mad.
I think the problem is that, especially like we look at Barrett, then one thing that's great about Barrett compared to other, I guess you could say, pandering black characters is that they never bring attention to the fact that Barrett's black. That's almost like a byproduct of his character. Like, it doesn't really matter. It's like, oh yeah, he's a big black guy. So what? You know, that's not his character. It just happens to be what he looks like. His character is that he's like selfless and he wants to save the planet. He's this revolutionary leader. He's a great father. You know, he's a big lovable teddy bear and all these things. And like, that's far more interesting than just being like, did you know Barrett's black? It's like, yeah, we know. Like, we can see it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. You know, like, I love Red 13. I'm not a dog, but I love Red 13. Like, big deal. You know, I love Tifa and Aerith. And guess what? I'm not a woman. It's fine. Right. And I just think that what they're kind of doing is that they're focusing too much on the surface level qualities. And they're not realizing that what people actually connect with are the things that are beneath the skin. And obviously a big example of this was the whole like Akira Toriyama thing with when I think it was Chris Kindred, again, the same person that started GamerGate 2, that was like, oh, like Akira Toriyama died, like he had talent in making like the best and worst black character designs of all time, and they're hinting at like Mr. Popo and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it just goes to show you that they don't know what they're talking about, because Mr. Popo is not even based on black people. He's like a genie, basically. And he's based on like Indian mythology and stuff, and Islamic stuff too, I believe. And it's like, these people are so obsessed with the identity of something that they seem to forget that what matters is everything besides the identity. You know, like I see myself in Cloud in some ways and being kind of like, standoffish, kind of wants to be left alone and stuff. I don't look like Cloud. My girlfriend says I'm a big teddy bear, so I guess I have that involved with Barrett. I'm not a big black guy, as you can tell. Doesn't mean I can't connect to him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like the characters that stand the test of time are the ones that we don't really care per se how they look like as much as who they are as a person. Like one of my favorite female characters is Jill Valentine. I don't look like Jill Valentine. I don't sound like her or anything, right? I'm not a 110-pound woman, but like she's fearless. She never gives up. She's resourceful. And like those are qualities that makes her really interesting. And for them, those things don't matter. And it should just be enough to be like, this character has this gender, this identity, these pronouns, this, usually the same freaking haircut. Let's be real. This side shaved hair's to one side. It's just, they're not realizing that we don't care about these things. And they're going to keep forcing them until we accept them. And it's just not working. And that's why they keep failing. It won't. And the games that keep winning are the games that don't push this. I mean, if we look at the last few games that won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, pretty much, a lot of them don't force these things. I mean, some people might say Baldur's Gate 3, but which won recently. But I think Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the only Western-made smart games because they have all that pandering stuff if you want, but it's all placed in choices. So you don't have to like have these things pushed on you unless you make the choices that allow those things to be pushed on you, if that makes sense. Like some people might say like, oh, like I remember there was this, there's some gaming awards things. So it's called the Gaming Awards, like GAYMING Gaming Awards. And it was like Shadowheart's one of the LGBT characters of the year, whatever. But for a lot of people, Shadowheart wasn't LGBT. She was a straight woman that they dated, right? And that's the brilliance of Baldur's Gate, is that they were able to basically create a game that catered both to the woke, crowd that cares about that stuff, and to the people that just like a great RPG, and the people that don't want to see that stuff because of choice. And then beyond that, every other game that's won Game of the Year recently for them, you have like Elden Ring, Sekiro, It Takes Two. What was before that? I think Overwatch, but that was before Overwatch became a pandering nightmare. These days, it's horrible. But back when Overwatch first came out, it was just a good hero shooter. And then something happened at Blizzard, and now it's just what it is now, I guess.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, the whole diversity space method tool thing, and putting all the things into the graph to see if you pandered enough with the character, and just that's why there hasn't been a new character in a long time that's been like just a straight white man. I think Sigma's the only one, and he's like some weird evil genius, friggin' Despicable Me looking guy. I don't know. No thanks. I'm good. I deleted Overwatch 2 a long time ago. I never plan to go back. That game can go die in obscurity as long as I care. So
no, yeah. I was looking. They now released $25 per skins for Cowboy Bebop, and they're like one looks kind of okay. It looks kind of like Faye Valentine. The others are just.
Does that surprise you at all? 2 of those skins cost as much as Helldivers 2. Oh,
that's crazy. And that
just putting that in perspective.
I love it because you were seeing that with AA, and we could go on. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I know you're a very busy guy. Let's make this the last question. Do you feel hopeful about where this is going? Do you think that this is leading to a better place, either for the industry or for gamers?
Yes. I think the more you keep them accountable, the more you speak out against it, and the more we kind of don't let this go the way the first GamerGate went. Because like I said, first GamerGate didn't really have any direction, I guess you could say. So it was just kind of like petering in all directions, and it kind of fell off. But now that there's actually a bunch of us that are sort of leading the charge in a sense where we can keep it on track. And I want to make sure, I see the only videos about this stuff, is that never stoop down to their level, never harass them, even though they think criticism is harassment, which it isn't, but it's fine. Never actually harass them, right? Just read what they say, laugh, and just know that you're on the winning side. Because at the end of the day, we don't need a lot of these video game developer people, like these like people that think this way, as much as they need us. Because like Japanese games, for example, which is all I've been playing this year pretty much, Japanese games have me good enough. Like I can play Japanese games for the next 10 years. I'm fine. You know, this year alone, like I have so much crap. Like next week is Dragon's Dogma 2, Rise of the Ronin. I'm gonna get both of those. Will I play them right away? I don't know. I'm still playing Final Fantasy Rebirth for God's sakes, but there's so many games to play. They're Japanese made. So when they say like, oh, well, we're just not gonna make any more Western games, I'm like, good, go ahead. I'm not missing anything clearly. Like Alan Wake was terrible. I hate that game. I platinumed it because I bought it without knowing Sweet Baby was a part of it. And I played it because I liked Control. I liked Alan Wake 1 and I played Alan Wake 2. I'm like, this is garbage. You know, Suicide Squad looks terrible. I'm not going to play that probably until it gets put on PS Plus and Game Pass because that's what's going to happen. Same way that happened with Avengers and everything else. We're winning 100%. And I think we're seeing from all the games that are failing and all the games that are winning, Pal World, Helldivers, all that stuff, that the games that don't push nonsense are being rewarded like hand over fist, right? Like Helldivers 2 doesn't pander to anybody. Today it was like it sold over 8 million copies. Pal World's doing so well. There was an article recently where they're like, the people that made Pal World don't even know what to do with all the money they made. Like they're actually just like, we don't know what to do.
They have.
You know, they're like, there's so much money. We're just like, we don't know. We're like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean? It's like, well, you know what happened? You just made a game that was good and fun. It was worth the price that it was. And you didn't pander to anybody. So now you have more money than you've ever had in your whole life. And that's it, right? Or you could pander like that one lady who said she wouldn't hire people if they weren't black, that's working on Marvel's Black Panther. And then you look at the game that she made prior to Black Panther. It's some game called like Validate. It had 80 players at peak when it first came out. And this is what you pander and you make a game for nobody. And then there was another guy, what was his name? Joe Tirado or something like that. And he had a whole thing in my previous video I talked about him. He had a whole thing where he was saying like, isn't it interesting how like out of the top 25 best-selling games of the past few years, only one of the games on that list has someone that like met our diversity quota, and he's tried to make it sound like this is why gamers are racist, and it's like all he ended up doing was inadvertently proving that if you don't pander, you end up on the 25 best-selling games of like the year. So if you don't pander, you do better, and if you pander, you do worse. He didn't realize that though, so he kind of self-owned himself, and it's just make games that are fun. Stop talking down to people. Video games are escapism. Okay, they're not your soapbox to be political. You can make that if you want, but don't get mad if nobody buys it or nobody watches it or whatever. You know, and that's really all it is. So they can get mad all they want, whoever. I think players are winning, clearly. Even like their wallets are winning, they're not spending as much money. You know, they're playing what they love, they're supporting what they love, and I think people are becoming much more aware of these people that are working at these companies, realizing a lot of them actually hate you for things you can't even change, right? Like I could be the most liberal woke dude to ever exist, but the fact that I look like this instantly means that I'm somehow horrible to them, right? Because they look at me and go, oh, he's a white guy, well, mostly a white guy, mixed, but whatever. He's a white guy, so he's terrible now, I guess, and you can't win. So there's no point. So just enjoy video games that don't pander and don't talk down to you. Engage with people that love video games and keep the politics out of it, and just have fun. And over time, eventually, the money will run out. They can't do this forever. It's impossible. Like financially, it's just impossible. And they'll just eventually they'll fall apart, and they'll realize. I bet you when that Black Panther game comes out, that racist narrative designer is working on, I wonder if it'll do well. I don't know. Maybe it will. Probably not, but we'll see. Because people realize, oh, that's the lady that said that she only hires these kinds of people, blah, blah, blah. She hates white people. And then that'll be a controversy. Like, I can't wait for Stellar Blade to come out. That's going to be another shitstorm.
The South Koreans.
Yeah. And it's just like, and again, they're going to get mad and say, oh, Stellar Blades, the alt-right's favorite game, whatever. And it's going to sold 1 million copies in 24 hours and whatever. It's like, yeah, you want to know why? It's probably going to sell really well. It's because it doesn't talk down to people. It just gives them what they want. And that's something that they can't realize because they refuse to give you what you want because they think they know what you need. And that's where all this butting of heads is happening. And this is why I think when GamerGate 2 eventually ends or evolves or whatever the hell you want to say, I think the industry will be better for it, for the players. Maybe not the developers, but for the players it will be. Right? And I think that you have the curated tools and stuff that Any game that comes out now that has Sweet Baby attached, it's going to get put on that list. And then what? No one's going to want to buy it. And then what are they going to do? They're probably going to be like, oh, we won't put Sweet Baby in the credits. And then people will just run through the credits looking for names. Oh, there's this person. So they're stealthily, having them involved. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting to see when a lot of these newer AAA Western games come out, to see if they are willing to die on that hill. It breaks my heart, though, that Wolverine is likely going to be a Sweet Baby in-game. Like, a lot. Because I've always wanted, like, a true Wolverine game. Like, next gen, I guess. And it sucks that it's probably going to be like Spider-Man. It's going to be pandering, and we'll see what happens when it comes out. I don't know. Yeah, even the Venom game.
Maybe they'll change course. Maybe.
I doubt it. They're probably way too headstrong. They're like, nope, you guys are gonna like this, and you're gonna accept it no matter what. And the people are gonna be like, nah, we're good. And they're gonna go, oh, you're all racist. It's like, nope, we just don't want to be talked down to anymore. We'll spend our money on something else. I'll go play Stellar Blade and enjoy a game that doesn't talk down to me. And they'll be like, oh, you're just
at Western Gaming, and then they're like, we're all so tight, and you have to do everything prim and proper. And then you look at South Korea, and they expect if you put out a game that a woman walks around and her thighs and her chest, everything was like flapping around like water balloons.
It's a video game. It's not supposed to be real anyway. Who cares? Like, does it really matter? Who gives a shit? It's a video game.
Yeah.
And that's the thing they don't realize. They're like, oh no, it has to, it's stupid. Just make games that are fun. Stop talking down to people. Make games that are fun, and stop putting your politics into everything. And then you'll be like Pal World's devs. You make so much money, you never have to work again in your life. But they're stupid, so they won't do that.
Okay, well, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for taking the time. And Endymion, where can people find you?
EndymionTV on YouTube. If you look me up on Twitter, my stupid ass didn't name it EndymionTV on there because I'm dumb. So it's EndymionYT. I don't know. I'm just stupid, and that's how I did it. So there you go. So it's a EndymionYT on Twitter, EndymionTV on YouTube, and I might try live streaming eventually. I have to buy a desk first, though, because I'm lazy.
I have the same problem. I'm also lazy.
I literally edit on my couch. I've said this on other streams before. I'm literally sitting on my couch right now, and I said this before too. The way I do these interviews, whatever. My laptop is sitting on my Death Stranding's Collector's Edition box. It's right here. It's a big blue box. That's my desk. I just letting you know. It does not take much to do what I do, but and that's another thing that pisses off all these drones and people. It's like, I went to school and did journalism and all this, and I work in a big fancy office. I'm on my couch in my shorts talking to you on a Death Stranding Collector's Edition box. And I have more reach.
Probably
what does that tell you?
More money too.
I cannot confirm nor deny, but I will just say, there you go. I'm just saying. This is what it is today. They're also mad too because we're kind of replacing them, but
yeah,
whatever. Who cares?
Okay, then. Well, folks, we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch CultureScape today. It was a fun episode. Nice discussion. Appreciate Endymion taking the time to talk with me. He's awesome. Thank you again to Bain Books Publishing, Imprint Simon & Schuster, and Young Voices for helping me put together the show, and my wonderful editor, Chris Holowicki, who makes me look way more competent than I actually am. He's wonderful. Thank you so much. And until we see you guys again on CultureScape, you never know who will show up. Take care, my friends, and keep geeking out.